There's a law in Western Australia which can see organ donors next of kin prosecuted if they identify loved ones who've given organ or tissue donations after death. The push is now on to have that law changed. Bruce McDowell is the chairman of Donor Families Australia. Thank you for being here, Bruce.
Thanks, Monica.
Do you think this law deters people from choosing to be organ donors?
Look, the chances are probably most people actually wouldn't be aware of it, Monica. It's been around since 1982, this particular law. It's never been changed, never been amended, and it's just been there. One has to assume that the government knows it's there, but in terms of the community, it's only really just come out in the open in the last 12 months or so.
Well, the WA government has said that it won't prosecute people if they are sharing details of a donor for the purposes of commemorating their loved one's decision to donate. What is your reaction to that?
Look, that doesn't change the law, of course. I mean, we're still going to be contravening legislation by telling our loved one's story. So that hasn't sorted that out. And really all they're saying to us is that we will turn a blind eye and you keep on contravening the legislation. It doesn't sit well with me, and I'm sure it doesn't sit well with most law-abiding donor families. It's just not the way to handle it. The way to handle it is to just straight out amend the law.
So what is it that Donor Families Australia wants the government to do?
What we'd like to see, what we're asking for is for donor families, for the next of kin, to actually own their loved one's information. And you just would have thought that was a natural thing anyway, but because of this peculiarity in the confidentiality section of the Human Tissue Act here in WA, it actually says that that right actually belongs to the deceased person. Which is, you can only assume it was a mistake when it was written, but what we want to see then is that to be changed so that it says that the information then is owned by the next of kin.
Because we can imagine it would cause some confusion. We have some viewer comments on this, Bruce. Louise Hale says, did not know that. What a shame. It can actually help with grief knowing that a part of your loved one lives on and has given hope and life to someone else.
Look, part of our journey is, as you can imagine, the immediate grief. We're talking about people who have lost their children, people who have lost their partners in life, and so on. And so the grief journey is enormous. And then to have this on top of things, it only adds to it. So what we're calling for the minister to do is to do an amendment. It's a very simple amendment. It's not the wording and a totally unconditional amendment. In the letter that's come out recently, and you did mention it, Monica, that the minister has told us that she's not going to prosecute us. But in there, it was conditional. There are two conditions set, which then sort of tells me that, well, if I don't meet those conditions, does that mean I'm potentially going to be prosecuted? So we'd really like to see that. What they've done with the letter is just muddied the waters, if you like.
Let's get to another question. Joel O'Brien asks, so if I died and donated my organs, my family couldn't make a hero out of me after death? Is this really an issue?
Look, after death, the person dying is an absolute hero. There's no question. My family member who passed away is an absolute hero, and it's just a shame that I can't scream about it on top of anywhere without worrying about this particular law. So what we do advocate as an organisation, Donor Families Australia, we advocate the benefits of organ and tissue donation. So please do not let this deter you from saying yes.
All right, we've got quite a few more questions to get through, so we'll move through them. Liam O'Keefe says it's for privacy and maybe needs to be addressed when signing to be an organ donor.
Not a bad idea. Yes, I concur.
Kim Bliss tells us in 2006 my son received a heart valve from an organ donor. It's still kicking. I really don't want to know who. We are just grateful that they did. And then this one from Kayla J. As a heart transplant recipient, I think my donor family has every right to say their daughter saved another person with her organs. She's a hero. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be alive today.
All good comment, and your earlier comment in terms of someone saying they don't necessarily want to meet up with their family, fair enough too, and everyone respects that. Donor Families Australia respects that. It should be, if anyone meets up, it should be consensual by both parties, and everyone agrees with that side of things. And look, as far as everyone being and recognising the donor. Yes, we should absolutely be recognising the donor.
We're going to go to our very last question now. We're going to go to Barbara Singh, who says that it is the greatest gift and it should be publicly acknowledged. Absolutely,
and it should be publicly acknowledged without fear, unconditionally. We want to be able to acknowledge our loved ones out there in the open. You can imagine the awareness benefit of doing that, and what we want to do is get that awareness out there. We do want to be able to tell the community that it's a very good thing to be saying yes, but sadly, because of this, it's hanging over our head. We do call on the Minister to right this wrong.
And Bruce McDowell, Chairman of Donor Families Australia, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
Thanks very much, Monica.
This is